I let Claude AI trade stocks for 30 days and documented the whole journey. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up Claude to do the trades, the 3 types of trades that I made, the week-over-week results, if I encountered any snags, and whether or not it actually made money. All right, I know you're anxious to get into it, but first, as you may have guessed, it's time for the obligatory disclaimer. This video is made for entertainment and educational purposes only. Nothing here is financial advice, and I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. Also, I know some viewers are going to have some questions as to why I did things a certain way, and I'll give you a full explanation at the end of the video, so please stick around so you see the whole picture. But let's not waste any time and get right into it. Okay, to kick things off, you don't need a technical background to do any of this, because it really boils down to signing up for some accounts, doing a few copies and pastes, and writing prompts that describe the trades we want to do. To get started, the first thing you need to do is download the Claude desktop app. So head over to claude.com/download, and the link is down below as well. After you download the app, you'll have to go through the install process, and when you open it, you'll be brought to the screen. You're also going to need a Pro or Max plan to do these trades as well. The next step is to sign up for the brokerage account, but the catch is you can't use any type of trading account. You need to use one that gives you API access. All API means, in simple terms, is that an API lets 2 different apps talk to each other and exchange information. Now, there are a few brokerages that offer API services like TradeStation and Interactive Brokers, but the one we're going to use today is Alpaca, and I'll explain why in a second. So do a search for Alpaca, and when you get to the site, make sure to sign up for a trading API. Now, you're going to have to jump through a few hoops, like validating your email and doing some authentication. So after all that fun stuff is complete, you'll be brought to this dashboard screen. All right, before we start getting into the trades, for this documentary, I'm going to be doing paper trading. Paper trading is just a simulated environment. All the trades will be done using fake money in a real market. Everything works the same way, just without risking any real money. And the reason I chose Alpaca is there's no time limit with how long you can paper trade. At least that's what they told me. Now, I really debated on if I should use one account for the 3 trades or go with 3 separate accounts, one for each trade. In the end, I decided to set up 3 separate accounts because it'll be easier to see what's happening if we can look at each stock individually. All right, so from the dashboard, in the upper left corner, if you click the drop arrow, you'll see that Alpaca has already set up one paper account for us. If you want to set up another paper account, click the New Paper Trading Account, give it a name, and enter the amount you want to start with. For this documentary, as I mentioned, I'll eventually set up 3 accounts, but for now, let's keep going and show you how to connect Alpaca to Claude. To connect the 2 apps, this is where you need your API keys, and you can get them from Alpaca. Over here on the right, look for API keys and click Generate. Alpaca will then give you an endpoint, key, and secret. Claude will need all 3 of them. So jump back to the Claude desktop app and click where it says Code. Once you get into Claude Code, the next step is to create a folder to store everything we do in one location. To do that, click the folder icon, then just give your folder a name and store it in the location you want. Now, here's the part that tripped me up. After I made the folder, I got a message about how Git for Windows was needed to run local sessions. And quite frankly, that was a real pain to figure out, and it did take me a while. So I made a separate video walking you through how to fix it. The link is below, but once things were sorted out, everything was good to go. Anyway, on to the trading. All right, getting back on track. After I got Claude Code to cooperate, it's always a good idea to test the connection to make sure everything is working. So I went back into Alpaca and copied the endpoint web address, the key, and the secret key. Then I went back into Claude, pasted them in, followed by a prompt that went like this. I just entered the trading credential information for my Alpaca paper trading account. I'd like to test it. Please go buy 1 share of Google and show it in the account. I then submitted it, watched Claude work its magic, and just like that, the trade was done. I then went to Alpaca just to verify everything, and yes, the purchase was made. After I verified everything, I then sold that share of Google to keep the account as close to its original starting value as possible, because I didn't want to carry anything over into the trades we're going to be doing for the rest of this documentary. All right, for the first trade, I'm going to be doing what's called a market order. And all that means is I want to buy X number of shares of a company at the current market price. To do this trade, I copied the API details from the first paper account, otherwise known as the stock buy account, then told Claude the following. Using my Alpaca paper trading account, buy 10 shares of Microsoft at the current market price. Confirm the order details once the trade's been placed. Go ahead and submit that and let Claude do its thing. Claude's saying the trade is complete, so let's go over to Alpaca and confirm everything. And right there it is. So the first trade's in the books. From this point on, I'll keep an eye on the stock and do what most investors do, which is if it does rise to a higher price, I'll sell it for a profit. But the problem with that is it can lead to a lot of manual work because I have to keep checking the price. So with the next trade, I'll show you how to get Claude to run automatically. For the second trade, I'm going to use my second Alpaca account. For this trade, I want to accomplish two things. First, place an entirely different type of trade, then have Claude act as a bot, watching the market on its own and make decisions based off the instructions I give it. For the second trade, I placed what's known as a short sale. And in case you don't know, a short sale is when you think the stock price is going to go down instead of up. Now, shorting stocks can be very risky because there's no ceiling. If the price keeps rising, you're going to get squashed. So you want to build in some protection with the order that you place. In Claude Code, I copied over the keys from the second paper trading account and then typed a prompt like this. I just entered the trading credential information for my Alpaca paper trading account dedicated to short selling. Use my Alpaca paper trading account to open a short position on Adobe, sell 10 shares at the current market price. Because this is a short sell position, I want to protect myself with the following rules. Set a stop loss at 10% above my entry price. If the stock rises and hits that level, buy back all 10 shares immediately to close the position and cap my loss. Once the order is placed, confirm the short entry price, the exact stop loss price level, the maximum dollar amount I can lose on this trade if the stop loss triggers. Now that the trade's been placed, the next part is I want to automate this to make sure Claude is paying attention to the trade during market hours and make sure that the trade gets executed as instructed. For that, I use the /schedule command that lets you automate tasks by putting them on, well, a schedule. So I typed a prompt like this. Now that the short sale has been placed, during market hours, keep checking the order of the short sale of Adobe to make sure everything is correct. Use the /schedule and set the timings as what you see as best. After I submitted this, Claude returned a response. And just to verify the schedule was set, if you go over here on the left and click where it reads routines, it looks like Claude did schedule the monitoring of the trade. So let's see how that plays out in the coming weeks. All right, time for the final trade. And for this one, you guessed it, I'll use my third Alpaca trading account. For this particular trade, I decided to kick things up a notch and place what's called a trailing stop order. In simple terms, a trailing stop sets a rising floor beneath your stock price. As the stock climbs, the floor climbs with it, locking in your profit at every step. But the key is the floor never drops back down. The moment the stock falls far enough to hit the current floor, everything sells automatically. You capture the gains without ever having to watch a screen. Now, just like the other trades, I'll paste the API keys into Claude. The only difference is they're from the third account. Once that's done, I'll type a prompt like this. Using my Alpaca paper trading account, buy 10 shares of NVIDIA. Then set up a trailing stop on my NVIDIA position with the following rules. If the price drops 10% from my entry price, sell everything. Every time the price rises 10% from my entry, move the floor up 5% below the new price. The floor only ever moves up, never down. I then submitted it. Claude said it was done. I then verified that the trade was placed. Next, I basically did the same thing as before. I set up a schedule telling Claude to monitor this position every 15 minutes during market hours and execute automatically when the conditions are met. Confirm the setup and show me the current floor levels once active. And there we go. All right, all three trades have been placed. They are up and running. Claude has also been told to monitor everything during market hours. Now, let's see what happens over the next few weeks. Okay, day one has come to a conclusion, so here's a quick wrap-up to let you know what happened. All the trades were placed between 10 a.m. and 11:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just to let you know what time the trades occurred. Overall, things went really well. Although what I wasn't expecting was to encounter the run now messages with the scheduled routines, and the trailing stop order did take a while to execute. And I have to admit, for a while there, it did look like things were going to fail, but eventually the trade did go through. I'm going to leave Claude Desktop open. I might close it over the weekend, but I haven't decided. We're also expecting some heavy thunderstorms to come through our area tonight, so we might lose power, and that might make things interesting. I'm also trying to decide how often to check in to check on the status of each stock trade. Right now, I'm thinking every 3 days, or I might go with a Monday, Wednesday, Friday approach, or I could even go at random times throughout the week. So I need to figure that out as well. Moving forward, I've also decided to give Claude a prompt asking it to summarize all three positions, and I'll use that at some point in the next few days. For the past 2 days, I've just been monitoring Claude, and it seems like things are going well overall. Although for some reason, I keep getting these notices about the routines needing to be run, which is really odd and interesting because they were supposed to run automatically. So I asked Claude about the notifications, and this is what it came back with. According to Claude, everything is working normally, but to be honest, I don't really believe what Claude is telling me. As for now, I'm not really sure what's going on with these notices, so I'm going to need to look into that a little bit further. But that being said, for now, I'm going to let things ride for a day or so and see what happens. All right, as you know, over the past few days, I've been getting these notices from Claude Code about how these routines need to be run, yet they're supposedly set to run automatically, and I was confused as to why I was getting them. So I did some digging and asked Claude to explain what was going on. Here's what Claude had to say about it. Here's the prompt that I typed, and I wanted Claude to explain these messages that I keep getting. Claude responded, stating that both tasks were enabled and running on schedule. Okay. It then went on to say that the notifications I'm getting are most likely just that, notifications. But then it went on to, in my view, hedge itself by stating that I may need to manually approve any stop loss adjustments, then proceeding to tell me it's going to go ahead and read the skill.md file. Okay. At that point, I decided to stop and start a new chat, this time focusing on each trade. For the new chat, I focused on the Adobe Short Monitor routine and wanted to know if it was running automatically as instructed. Claude responded with a confirmation saying that the Adobe routine is active and on schedule. At that point, I kind of pressed Claude again about the messages. So at that point, I thought the issue was kind of settled, but I was still a little restless about how Claude was responding to me. So I started a new chat, and here's what Claude responded with. From what I can gather, the problem, in simple terms, is that the permissions that control which commands the bot is allowed to run automatically without asking me first were set to match exact commands. Somewhere in there, the commands stepped on each other's toes, causing an issue. According to Claude, all it needed was a simple fix that involved swapping out the exact match rules for wildcard patterns that cover any Alpaca API calls. Now, as fate would have it, I was just about to stop for the day, only to get another notice about the Adobe trade, so I ran it and then asked Claude why I keep getting the prompt. Claude told me certain steps aren't on my allowed list, which is why I keep getting prompted, then proceeding to tell me how to fix it. So looking back at what I've done to date, maybe somewhere during the configuration setup, I clicked the Allow Once option as opposed to Always Allow, which I can totally see myself doing. Anyway, I asked Claude if everything was fixed, and Claude said everything is in order, so let's find out in the days ahead. All right, a few things to talk about today. First, it seems like the issues with the routines not running automatically has been fixed because I haven't been prompted to run them over the past few days, which is good. Next, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted Claude to give me an idea of how each trade is performing to date, so here's the prompt I went with. And here's what Claude had to say regarding the Microsoft purchase. And here's the Adobe short sale. And last, NVIDIA. Also, because SpaceX went public a few days ago, I thought it might make the video more interesting by doing a trade where you can profit if the stock goes up or down. This is often accomplished by using what's called a long straddle trade with options, but that gets kind of involved and goes beyond the scope of what we're doing here. Besides, just as I figured, it's not uncommon to not be able to short IPO stocks because of their volatility. So that was the abrupt end of that thought experiment, and we'll just carry on to see what the next few days brings. So I decided to let Claude do its thing and have been letting everything ride over the past few days. Best I can tell, the routines have been working properly, and I didn't ask Claude how the trades are performing, mainly because I don't want to run the risk of becoming repetitive or waste your time. At the end of this week, I'll ask Claude how the trades are performing and let you know the results. All right, even though I said I checked the positions at the end of last week, I completely forgot that here in the States we have a major holiday and the markets were closed, so I figured waiting until Monday wouldn't hurt anything. Anyhow, the prompt I used was, please let me know how this trade is performing and give me an update on the percentage gains or losses, plus any relevant information I need to know. Starting off with a Microsoft trade, it looks like I'm down a bit, and what's interesting here is Claude is asking if I want to set up a stop loss trade to protect against any further loss, which is really intriguing if we stop and think about it. Moving on to the Adobe short, it looks like as of today, I've given back some of the gains, but overall, I'm on the plus side, so I'll take that one. And last, it looks like the NVIDIA stop trade. I am underwater by about 4%, and this trade needs about roughly a 15% gain to get back on track, so we'll see what happens there. Also, it looks like Claude Code stopped because we had another round of really nasty storms roll through the area, and it did shut down my PC for a while, so that does make sense. Now, what's really interesting is over here, this routine section has appeared, and I don't recall seeing it previously. So I went ahead and clicked on it to check things out, and from the looks of it, over here on the right side, Claude has produced some sort of monitoring report that tells me the time the routine ran, so that's kind of cool. If I click on a timestamp, I get some additional details about the trade monitor, and I also noticed this detail link up here, and from the looks of it, I seem to get some more granular details. So by chance the spirit moves me, I'll poke around in here a little bit more to check things out, but for now, that'll do it for today's activity. Okay, and welcome to day 30 of letting Claude do some stock trading, otherwise known as the last day. Quick note for clarity. The trades were placed on June 10th, which I'm counting as day 1, so day 30 lands us at July 9th. How about we start off by seeing how everything performed? For that, let's jump into Alpaca first and check out what's been going on. As you can see here, this was recorded on July 9th, and here is how the Microsoft position is doing. Let's check out Adobe, and last NVIDIA. Okay, the next thing I did is go into Claude, and because this is the end of the experiment, I decided to give Claude the following prompt. Do the following for this trade. Give me a summary for the past 30 days for this ticker symbol, the entry price, current price, percentage return, and how much money was made or lost. Compare this trade against the S&P index over the same 30-day period. Starting with Microsoft, as you might recall, we initially bought 10 shares, and over the next 30 days, the stock price dropped before recovering, which put the trade down roughly $185 or about 4.6%. Moving on to Adobe, as a quick reminder, this is the trade that we shorted 10 shares of stock, which means we wanted the price to go down, and at one point the stock had dropped a bit, which put us up by roughly $410, or a gain of roughly 17%. There is also a stop loss placed on the trade, which capped our losses at roughly $235. So at the end of the 30 days, the stock price did go up a bit, which took away some of our profits, and we're currently up only roughly $135. Safe to say this was the best trade we made and gave us the overall strongest return? Because, well, it's no secret that Adobe isn't doing so great. Sorry. Last up, let's take a look at NVIDIA. This trade peaked around mid-June before falling off pretty hard. It's since recovered, the trailing stop order was never placed, and this trade is pretty much a break even. So while we were looking at our individual stock positions, the S&P 500 was up about 3% over the same time frame. No big drama, no big swings. It went up, it went down. And what's really interesting is while the index only gained about 3%, two of our stock picks actually lost money, and that makes things kind of interesting. So make sure to let me know your thoughts on that when the time is right. All right, it is time to render my final thoughts with this whole experiment. And to be very blunt and direct, I really struggled with how to conclude this because in all honesty, I'm really tempted to end the video here, leaving things open-ended and asking the viewers to leave their thoughts. Yet we all know that's just a cheap engagement tactic, and I figured I should at least put in some few personal thoughts to let you know where I stand. Overall, this was a fun experiment. The part that really stood out was the constant reminders about the routines needing to be run. To be honest, I'm not quite sure if it was something that I missed or if it was Claude's fault, so I'm really not sure what to think about that one. Moving on, did the results of this experiment match my expectations? Overall, I would say yes. Best I can tell, Claude did follow the rules of the trade and was on top of the price monitoring, although I do wish one of the trade triggers would have been activated because it would have been interesting to see how Claude would have acted. Does trading like this actually work? I would lean towards yes, and seeing how this experiment went, I wouldn't be so hesitant to try this with real money. Now, I wouldn't jump right in with everything I had, because trust me, I don't have a lot. If it costs 50 cents to get around the world, I could not get out of sight, and that's not a joke. But overall, I would start with an amount that I feel okay losing, and I do definitely feel more comfortable letting Claude do something like this. Now, another very important note. For this video, I pasted in the API keys just so you can see things in action. However, in real life, I would not paste them directly into Claude because that's very risky. Instead, I would have pasted them into a text file within the trading folder that you can have Claude access when needed. Alright, so how about we end this by asking for your thoughts? So I'm curious to see, after you've watched this, is this something you would try? Was 30 days even long enough to test this, or should it have been a longer time frame? What surprised you the most out of this? And did anything here meet your expectations? Make sure to let me know your thoughts below. And since you're here, YouTube thinks this video is good for you to watch, so please feel free. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.